2 Samuel 24, going from verse 1 through 4, it tells a story about David taking a census. Basically, he takes the time out to number how many troops he has, find out how big his fighting army is, and this, that, and the third. Now, it also says that David got in a little bit of trouble. Well, he got in a lot of trouble because of this. Trouble with God. Now, you may say, why in the world would God punish David for taking a census or taking inventory on how many troops he has? So the reality is, the motive behind David doing what he was doing was to see how awesome he was. It was to see how big his army was and to put basically his trust into his own abilities, into his own power, his own prestige. Essentially, what David was dealing with was an issue of pride. And it's very easy when you do music, it's very easy when you do anything that gets in front of people to start to measure yourself on either how many records you sell or how many people come to your show or just all the dumb little things that we do to make ourselves look great. And we have a tendency to essentially put the gift that God gives us and make it more important than the giver. And it just basically says that David not only missed the boat on that, but that he dealt with the consequences of it. And I know in my own life, the times where I've stood on that stage and thought about, oh, look how great I am, or look how many people have showed up, or look at this, that, and the other. When the issue of pride began to creep in, how quickly God can humble us. The Bible says that He gives grace to the humble, that He gives favor to the humble. And if we are wanting to exalt ourselves, then we need to learn how to humble ourselves. It says those that humble themselves will be exalted, those that exalt themselves will be humbled. And we have a choice every time when we step to that microphone, every time we step in front of a crowd, every time we just simply do anything that can potentially go back and build into our own kingdom. We have to stop and go, what are our motives? Why am I doing this? What's the most important thing at the end of the day?
All right, what's up, everybody? It's your boy KJ here. We are talking today about how to harness your creativity, and especially when it comes to songwriting. So much of it is based in what I call riding the wave, if you want to put it that way. Basically, what I'm trying to talk about is creativity comes and goes. We all know that. If you've ever been through a session of writer's block where you're sitting down, got the paper in front of you, got the laptop open, whatever, how you write your stuff, and nothing comes. And we know how frustrating that is. So how do you ride the wave of creativity? What am I talking about? Well, if creativity is just like a wave on the ocean, we have to ride it when it's at the very top, when we feel the most creative. And just like a muscle can be enhanced through exercise and through training and through proper nutrition, your creativity muscle can be enhanced by how you set the stage, how you put yourself, for lack of a better term, in the zone. And what I usually like to do when I try to sit down and either write something or work on a song or anything that involves my creativity, I try to create the mood. And all those things that I can do to enhance my creativity or put me in a mental state that's ready to create, I do. And over time, I've learned to know exactly what enhances my creativity. So I can't necessarily say what works for you because every person is individual, every person is different. But just like a muscle can be trained to work at its peak performance, your creativity muscle can be trained to work at peak performance. So in my particular case, I find my brain is most active in the morning. It used to be at nighttime. I used to stay up writing till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, mainly because that's the time when things were quiet and I could focus. But over time, that's changed. And for me, first thing in the morning or after I've done my basic stuff, generally that's when I feel the most creative. And one thing that's very important for me is usually before I sit down to create, I have to have my quiet time with God, whether that's reading the Word, whether that's spending, 10, 20 minutes in prayer, whatever it takes. I try to do that to enhance my creativity. I feel like when I connect with my creator, I find it easier to connect with the listener. And just even on a side note, generally caffeine tends to enhance my creativity. It makes my brain alert, it makes my thought process better. And also I try to write in a place where there's no distractions. I turn off the cell phone, I turn off the TV, and I just mainly try to vibe to what the music is telling me. Now, a lot of times people say, do you write the rhymes first and then get the beat, or do you get the beat? What usually determines what you write? I find, and this is usually 90 times out of 100, that it's easier to write to the beat that I'm trying to work with. Generally, if you just write a rhyme with no particular track in mind and you try to force lyrics into a beat that doesn't fit, you're going to find that you're going to have to go back and re-edit and things like that. So almost all the time I write to the beat. I find the song that I like and I let the song sort of speak to me. I let the vibe of the creativity of that track speak to me. So for me, it's important to just get away. It's important to have my brain alert. It's important to have my connection with God. And it's also important to hear what the music is saying to me. A lot of times we run into problems because we try to force lyrics into music that just doesn't work. And so it's very important that you find that the two work together, that you're in a spot where you're enhancing your creativity. And also a lot of things that I do is when I feel creative, I will write almost like little couplets of lyrics. So if I'm having one line running through my head, I will generally try to write as many words that rhyme with that word with it. I'm not necessarily trying to finish the lyric. I'm just simply trying to get words that I can use to rhyme with it. And I generally find, like, so if I reach a point in the verse where I get stuck, I go back to those couplets that I've already written. I go back to those lines that I've already written. I pull from those and reinsert them into the song. So always be in a point of writing down lyric ideas, always be in a point of writing down punchlines, always be in a point of writing down content. Those things will help you when you get to those points where you're stuck. And there's also something to be said when you get stuck, don't try to force it. There comes a time where sometimes you just have to step back and go, I'll come back to this later when my brain is more creative. It's better to work in a creative state than to work in a state where you're trying to force something. And over time, you'll understand what that means. One final thing also just to keep in mind is that there is times where you're not going to feel like it and you just have to write. And it's better to get something out than to get nothing. You get what I'm saying? So again, train that muscle, get yourself in a creative space, write down things that will help you when you get stuck, and just always be connected with God. Think about it.